The scope of Swift represents the lines of code for which a variable or constant is accessible within the function or the program. If the variable is declared in one place of your code, it cannot be referenced outside that place. Local scope is a scope you are currently in, the block of code between the curly brackets. We will demonstrate different scopes using the following codes. The local scope is the lines of code within the function getGrade, which is why it's often called the function scope. A variable grade that is declared inside the function cannot be accessed outside of it. A global scope is present everywhere. That's why it's called global. Variables defined at the highest level of the code, such as outside of functions, classes, etc., can be used anywhere, though there are some exceptions. We can redeclare a variable within the same name in the same scope because the variable names must be unique within their scope. Instead, we can define another variable with the same name in a different scope, that they have the same name, but they are declared in different scope. Global, local, function, and class scope. Scopes have levels. They are hierarchical, such as a function scope and class scope. In this code, we have a defined enum called the language, which has 3 cases with instance dialect of type language with initializing enum value .ruby as a default. We've reviewed the above code in terms of scope. The scope of the CS311 project class is a global. It's globally defined, so we can create CS311 project object anywhere in the code. The scope of the language enum is limited to the class. We can use CS311 project type inside the class and not outside of it. The scope of dialect property is also limited to class. We can use that property inside the class. The dialect property is defined in the class scope, but because it is also publicly accessible, we can access the property on any object of type CS11 project. Let JavaScript equal CS11 project. JavaScript.dialect equal .ruby. The crucial distinction here is that CS311 project class and the JavaScript variable are declared and thus available in the global scope. That's why we can use them in the above code snippet. We are dealing with the 3 levels of scopes here. The global scope, in which a CS311 project class is defined. The class scope, in which a dialect property, language enum, can-write functions are defined. The function scope inside the can-write function, in which we are using the value of a dialect property of a current class instance. The CS311 project class is defined in the global scope, so we can use it anywhere in the application module. The dialect property is defined in the class scope, so we can use that within CS311 project class. Same goes for the language enum and the can-write function. We conclude that every reason in your code lines between brackets has a scope. Global scope, class scope, function scope, and so on. We generally distinguish between local scope and global scope in order to express whether we have access to a certain variable, property, or type. Scopes are hierarchical, which means that we can access class property inside the class function because function has access to the class scope. In the next few slides, we present Swift sample examples by function. First, we present the function syntax. Next, we the if syntax. Third, we present the loop syntax. Finally, we present the class syntax. And we'll also present bibliographies. Thank you.